Well, hello and welcome to Self Publishing Insiders. My name is Mark Leslie Lefebvre, and I am the Director of Business Development for Draft to Digital. And I'm so thrilled to have, despite a snowmageddon going on where I'm just delighted to have in our virtual studios, Chelle Honecker from Indie Author Magazine. Chelle, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to see you.
So there is a big snowstorm coming. It has arrived or it's on its way. What's the plan here?
So yeah, California, where I'm from. I'm physically in Texas right now, but I'm headed out to help dig out family and friends that are in the high Sierras near Lake Tahoe, and also in Southern California near Lake Arrowhead, where they've had close to 9 feet of snow, and they're both unincorporated areas, so it's hard to get help to come quickly.
That's scary.
Yeah, yeah.
For want of a shovel in a place like, a snow shovel, right? That's the kind of shovel we're talking about.
Yeah, my brother had to snowboard into our mom's house to actually, kind of trek my mom back out because she lives down in a little canyon. So
sounds a bit more fun than it probably was for him, right?
It's fun now that she's safe and we know she's okay. But at the time, it was a little bit, is this going to be a Netflix movie someday to talk about this? But yeah, now that everybody that we know and love are, safe and warm, and now it's just sort of batting cleanup, I guess is the best way to put it. So
I hope everyone's safe there. Now, we are here to talk about Indie Author Magazine and related topics. But before we get there, I want to ask this really probing question.
Sure.
Who is Chelle Honecker? Who is she?
Who is she? She was a fledgling digital nomad at the beginning of the pandemic. She was ready to take her empty nest on the road and teach other people how to be digital nomads. And then the pandemic did a big smackdown to most of us, all of us. And so I sort of pivoted, and I spent 4 months in Carnlough, Ireland, and gathered a tribe of friends to Zoom with because I was bored. And that's how we started a magazine. So my background is technology and training. I've been a technology and training consultant for the travel industry and luxury industries for going on almost 2 decades now. And so I had run a luxury travel magazine and partnered with Alice Briggs, who I had met at a 20 Books Edinburgh conference. She also lives in Texas, and we both had to go to Scotland to meet. And we partnered together as accountability partners, and both had the idea of starting something to give context to a lot of the ideas that were floating around in the indie author world and information. And so we partnered together, and she has a art background. She's a fine artist and a entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur as well. So we sort of came together in this, weird explosion of ideas, and here we are. So that's me, but I also have to, bring in Alice as quickly as I can because she's the other half, right? She's my soulmate.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Is you're definitely the leader of a team, a member of a team, however you want to decide it. This is not a sole person endeavor, despite the title, Indie Author Magazine.
Right.
As we know, really good indies really are the orchestrators of their own destiny rather than solopreneurs necessarily, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the team started, as I mentioned, I went to the SPF Live in London, and then the world sort of quickly started to cave in. And I sent out a message and said, hey, does anybody want to sprint with me? And the initial team that started the magazine started from that group. There were 20 of us that all started to chat together. Yes. And Marian Hermanson gave us the nickname, the Coronitas, right? And that moniker has still stuck with us as this core group of folks that were bouncing ideas off of one another. And we were sprinting together on Zoom and chatting twice a day for 2 hours at a time. So 4 hours a day we were meeting, we were talking about, what was going on where we were. So I was in Ireland, Northern Ireland. There were folks in, the Republic of Ireland and Kuwait and the UK and Malta and Canada. And so we were sharing ideas about our stories and editing tips and methodologies for outlining and all of these things. And from that, we decided we needed a spreadsheet to keep track of all the great ideas and courses and who had great articles. And so from that, the spreadsheet, when it got to 200 lines, we like, yeah, let's build a website. So we built a website, which was indieauthortools.com, which is sort of just a crowdsourced, crowd sharing way to keep track of all of these tools and books and ideas and software and all this stuff. And then from that, we just started sending out people started signing up for a newsletter. So we started sending out what we call the Friday Five, which is a technology newsletter with the 5 coolest things that we found, right? Just like, let's do this. And then from that, Alice and I said, hey, let's see if we can get more context around it. Let's see if we can get more of a journalistic slant. Let's see if we can explore those ideas. And so that's how the magazine was born. So from those, 20 people that all raised their hand and said, yeah, we'll be part of this. We then went out with another call because everybody's part-time, right? They all roll on and roll off. Some people have book launches. Some people have, friends and family things going on. So they might not be able to write for a certain time. But now we're up to 63 authors, 63 indie authors that, just sort of raised their hand and said, hey, I'd like to write. And all of them come to us with, curiosity, and some are very experienced authors, some are not experienced authors, some are editors. And so it's grown into this, again, sort of crowdsourced, but we think what makes us different is that we're from the industry, right? Everybody's got the perspective of being a working indie author, whether it's full-time or part-time or aspiring, which, if you're an indie author, you're an indie author. I don't like the word aspiring to qualify anything. You write, right?
I'm with you on that. Yeah, you are an author.
You are an author, period. So the magazine's really, our tagline is when writing means business. And so that's however you define business. It doesn't have to be, you want to be a 6-figure author. It might just be that you've got a story that you want to tell and you want to do it in the best way possible. So you're an indie author. If you've taken charge of your career and you're hybrid, you're still an indie author, because it's the independent spirit that we want to celebrate, not so much the self-published part of it. That really isn't, that's not as important as what you bring to it, and the freedom that you want from it.
Oh, I love that. And so how many years ago now did you start this magazine? Because it's been around for 3 years?
2.
Oh, 2 years.
Yes, we're not even 2 years old. We launched May 1st. Well, we launched May 4th. We wanted May the 4th be with you.
Of course. Why not?
I'm also so committed to that fandom that I had a child on that day many years ago. So
Perfect.
birth of business and a baby. So May 4th will be 2 years. So issue 23 has just come out, and we're about to do issue 24 in April. So
issue 23 I'm very fond of for some strange reason. I don't know why,
right? I think it's one of our best, I think.
It's a really great issue, I think. I don't know. So I'm holding this up. This is just an example. Also, my next favorite one, of course, is the newsletter Ninja Tammy Labreck is featured on the cover. So many great issues. But I mean, you have this available as a digital subscription because you're indie authors and therefore you understand and embrace digital. But you've got this gorgeous magazine with all of these. I mean, I had to have a physical, and it's not cheap. It's full color. This is got to be expensive. Can we talk a little bit about the reason? Gorgeous layout, and obviously the PDF I think is highly recommended if you don't want to wait for the physical copies that are. See, I have my subscription. I gathered as many of these as I could. We're still in the office here with me.
You have more than I do on.
But what was the decision behind that?
So it was a fever dream. It feels like now. It's a lot of work to produce a monthly magazine. And again, I just have to say kudos to Alice, because Alice is the one that lays it out every month in the full color. When we started, again, I came from the luxury travel space. So I kind of had a playbook for magazine production. And with that, we had an app and we had a website and we had print. and we had, we didn't have an ebook back then, but we do have an ebook now. So the way that we produce it is we wanted to be in as many places as possible. We kind of said we want to have as many hooks in the water, and wherever the fish are, they'll bite. And we also have a really strong commitment to accessibility. And so we created a few things that I think were important to us in the beginning that have become really important to a lot of our readers and listeners. And where I'm going with that is, if you read the articles on the website, at the top, we have a listen to the article in every single one. We also compile all of those articles and we put them into a monthly podcast. And that's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can get a podcast. It's distributed through Amazon Listen. Yeah.
Oh my God. When did you launch the podcast?
We're sort of backfilling the podcast. It's been about 6 months. We wanted to sort of soft launch it just to be sure that we could keep up with it. And now we can keep up with it. And we never want to start something that we're not able to keep up with. And we've had a couple of things where we're like, yeah, we kind of need to get that, ramped up a little bit more consistently. And so that's been really important to us, is to have that accessibility portion so that you can listen to the articles, you can take them on the go, you can download them, you can listen to them wherever you are. So it's available. We also created an EPUB version, and we are wide, so you can get it everywhere in the wide version. And that's an article only format. So if you just want to read them or skim them or bookmark them or highlight them using any one of your e-readers, you can do that and create your own file there. So we're very exhausted every month on the first. The last 3 days of the month are a crunch, but we do it exactly the way an indie author would if they were wide, exactly the same way. So we avail ourselves of all of the great tools. We've got, we use Atticus and we use Vellum and we use Draft to Digital, and we've done that from the jump. So that's been, we are a full indie author. We replicate exactly what indie authors do. So,
well, I wanted to get into that. I'm so excited because I have, almost every issue since it started, physical copies of the issue and the digital subscription, because you get the digital one faster, right? Because delivery is instantaneous.
Yeah.
But I haven't necessarily read every single issue because I do like the physical object to find it easier, because you've got this gorgeous layout and it's really enjoyable to read. But I didn't realize you had the podcast. So now I can go back to the podcast and I can get caught up on the stuff I missed, and even better, remember some of the great articles and interviews and all the content that you have. So how is the audio done? Are you using AI to get that audio done, or the actual voice?
Okay, yeah, we used AI from the beginning. That it's just part of our commitment to accessibility. And so we knew we weren't going to be able to have every article translated every single, and that's the other thing, is we can also translate them into the other languages for listeners all around the world, because we have a global group. But yes, we use AI for that. And then we use AI for our intros and outros on our podcast. And so when we first started, we knew, because there were so many of us separated all around the world, that we wanted an avatar to represent us. And so we introduced the concept of Indie Annie. And Indie Annie is she's a British aunt, is there to lend a helping hand and to answer questions. Yes, she is our avatar. And I get people always ask me, is that you? And I can truthfully say, no, that's not me. And I don't write that article ever. So all of the articles are narrated by Indie Annie, we say. She is the voice.
That's
of
the voice. Oh, that is fantastic. Okay.
Voice magazine as well as the face of the magazine. So we absolutely love that she has a biting wit. She's sassy. We say she has a tipple in her teacup. She might be a little drunk when she's giving you advice, but it's always good advice. She is the employee of the month in perpetuity. Let's just say that. She does all the heavy lifting.
So the questions that come into Indie Author Annie, are they legitimate, real live questions from real people? And how do people ask?
So there's a couple of ways you can ask. You can email her direct at indieannie@indieauthormagazine.com. You can just ask her. All
Okay.
of our newsletters come from her. She has written all of our newsletters. And so if you hit reply to any newsletter that you get and just ask, she will answer that question. You can also go to her page, which is on the website on indieauthormagazine.com, and you can submit a question for Annie there. So she is a live person. The questions were, so some of them come from the wild, but also because we have 60 plus working indie authors, they will often just throw something in Slack or send something direct and say, I have imposter syndrome. How do I deal with that? And the
Right.
great thing about it is that we ask much smarter people than us. So if we're dealing with imposter syndrome, we'll go talk to Becca Syme. We'll talk to the folks that are directly involved in dealing with this. If they've got a question about ads, right? We'll go to the smart people that are talking about ads, and we'll go ask whoever it is. So that's sort of the great thing again about, because we're from the industry, we sort of know the landscape and the layout and who's got great information and who we can lean on for the great information. We also attend most of the good conferences, so we get to hear what's going on, boots on the ground, and get to interview folks and talk to them. So yeah,
I love that.
Indiana's everywhere and nowhere all at once, right? So
That's right. I'm impressed with. So one of the things I love about this is the only professional magazine for independent authors that is on the market, and this could sit on a newspaper on a newsstand shelf
yes.
alongside any of the major magazines. Like, it is like People Magazine for indie authors, or Entertainment Weekly, or any of those.
Yeah. Little less.
What I love about that is it makes the indie author feel like this is, and it is, we all know this, in the
Yeah.
indie author community, we know it's a legitimate millions and millions of dollar industry, but it still feels in many ways like a shadow industry because it hasn't been recognized. And one of the interesting things is a lot of indie authors can sell millions of copies of their books and yet don't have that physical distribution. And
Yeah.
so what this does, and I'm just gonna pop up an overlay with some of the issues, right? So just some of the, I went to your website and I grabbed some of the most recent issues, and obviously you've got a lot of different faces, you've got a lot of different people, perspectives, and I hear you're even doing a special. Your next issue is going to, I think, because you did have a tech issue about 4 or 5 months ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the tech issue was in conjunction with the Author Tech Summit that we ran, and the Author Tech Summit was it's an offshoot of the magazine. It's yeah, there it is. What we found was there are so many great conferences, but it's hard to have hands-on technology training at a conference, right? In 45 minutes in a session, you can't really get a feel for what's possible, even if someone's giving a product tour or an overview. So the Author Tech Summit, we sort of said, all right, we can bolt on to any of those conferences and we can do something that is hands-on. You're sitting at your computer and you can learn about Plotter. You can learn about Atticus. You can learn about any one of the hundreds of tech products that are out there, from the indie author perspective. And so that was the first one that we did. The next one that we're doing is all about AI. And AI has just, I know, there's so polarize polarized, opinions about it. And our job as a journalistic magazine is to bring perspective and to give information. We're not taking a stand one way or another. We're not giving our opinion one way or another. We're simply presenting the information, and then we're giving you the resources to search farther and learn more about lawsuits and copyright and all of the cases that are happening in the courts and what's going to happen. But we also have opinions. We've solicited some op-eds, pros and cons. So people that have serious suggestions or questions or concerns about how information is aggregated by these engines, they deserve to have a platform just as much as somebody that is, considerably pro AI and really excited about that. We asked Kevin McLaughlin to come on board as a contributing editor for this issue because we really wanted to get it right. And we wanted to ensure that we had an extra layer of fact checking and an extra layer of levity and eyes on to work with Nicole Schroeder, who is our editor-in-chief, who is a consummate journalist and just is a brilliant editor. And so, yeah, that's our next issue is all about AI. And then the mini Author Tech Summit at the end of April will be in conjunction with that. And so we've got a call for speakers that's going out. We've got a call for folks to come talk about products. And, for those that are really looking for the information and want to know more about it, this is good, unbiased information. If you don't like AI, it's okay. You don't have to embrace it. That's all right, right? We all come at our careers in different ways, and there's tools. So we're not here to convince anybody of the benefits or uses of AI. We're just here to present a journalistic perspective.
I like that approach. I like the approach that you're there to share information and multiple viewpoints and all of those perspectives, which is really important for us to get a well-rounded view. Alyssa commented, says it's so nice to hear an expert for things. Thanks for bringing relevant and expert voices to the indie people. And related to that, I have to say, so I've had experience recently with the professionals who work for Indie Author Magazine and Heather Clement Davis, who interviewed me for the feature article. I just have to say, I have been interviewed hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. And Heather is a consummate professional. She came to the interview fully prepared. She had in-depth, insightful questions to ask. She made me feel, I've been doing it for a long time, but it doesn't mean I don't get nervous. Potentially you're potentially nervous being interviewed now in this live feature, but she had a way of making me feel so at ease, so comfortable, and so relaxed, where it was just a great conversation between two people. And then not only that, I took her on tangents and sidetracks all over the universe, and yet she managed to incorporate that into a really cute theme that she turned the article in, rather than rolling her eyes and saying, "Oh my God, how do you talk to this guy?" I mean, the experience was so amazing. So when I look at those articles, when I go back and read the other feature articles from other writers, it's like, wow, there's something about the editorial quality of what you guys are doing that really demonstrates indie authors are consummate professionals.
Yeah, I agree. From the beginning, we had Erica Everest and Robin Sardi, who were co-managing editors, and they, it's very hard to launch a business and launch a product at the same time. It's just difficult. And they were, they were in the trenches every day, shaping those articles, creating creative briefs, developing processes with us to help us be sure that we had a journalistic standard. And Nicole was with us from the beginning. She wasn't in the editing process, but she served sort of as an advisor to both of them. And then they both rolled off to go work on their own books. I mean, so rude, but Nicole was right there and ready to step in. And so the process that they created and that Nicole was part of from the start, and the process that she's refined, gives the writers a great framework. They get a creative brief that has, a ton of stuff in there so that they can then, it's almost like having a developmental editor on staff for them. That they relate to that as an indie author. And then, the writers can just operate in their zone of genius and have great interviews and write the most amazing stuff. And then it comes back to Nicole and she shapes it up. And then we've had, then we have another process with Lisa Thompson, who, then goes in and checks it one more time and makes sure that it's copied. Again, we do monthly exactly what most indie authors do as an iterative process. But those are the genius steps, I think, that we've had from the beginning to make it a journalistic magazine, as opposed to just, a vanity press, or, we only want to have our friends on the cover. If you look at the covers and how we set everything up, we choose folks that sort of go along with whatever the theme of that magazine is, right? So last month we had newsletters, and who else would we put but Tammy Labreck, the newsletter ninja, right? So, But I have to agree, Heather is one of our strongest interviewers, and we're very, very lucky to have people that are natural interviewers, natural writers, that operate in their zone of genius every single time. Like I'm constant. I read this. I'm like, God dang, we're good, man. We're really good. We put out some good stuff. This is great. I'm
You do.
and and I just have to say, we're just very, very lucky to have the best writers. We now have Honoré Quarter, who's writing an entire year-long series as a columnist for it on prosperity.
Did she start in the latest issue?
Just started, yeah. And Steve Higgs is now writing about marketing. Like, okay, we get the smartest people. Craig Martell has been writing for us. We have his Martell Motivation to tell us how to stay motivated, how to keep your focus, how not to get lost in the fray, how to have a career based on longevity. Like, we're very, very lucky to have the best and the brightest and the smartest people in the magazine consistently every month that are so, and I think that's what I love about this industry so much, is people are so generous, right? It's such a generous industry. And so we've benefited as a magazine, which means the indie authors benefit as an industry, because people are so willing to share their expertise and their time and their talent. And I get to wake up and play with my best friends every day. Like, I have the coolest job ever. I have the coolest job.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to pop up a question from Jan in the comments. Jan said, does the magazine do author interviews? Well, we know they do, because we just talked a little bit about that. But Jan asks this probing question: if so, how does one apply to be interviewed? So you talked about you've got lots of people based on themes, etc. But is there a way for someone who says, hey, I have expertise in this? Is this, how do they contact you? How does that happen?
Absolutely. So if you go to the website, you go to indieauthormagazine.com, and you go to the bottom, there's nominate a featured author. And we absolutely welcome you to nominate yourself as a featured author. We'd like to hear their stories. Right. That's what we're about, right? It's a business journal, but we're such a new industry that the only way that we have to sort of share some information is to hear from authors that are, creating new paths. There's now a lot of authors are selling direct on their websites. And so we're excited to hear about people that are now taking charge of their career and creating e-commerce on their own site. We're excited to hear about people doing Patreon. We're excited to hear about people doing Kickstarter, right? So go to the website, go down to the bottom, nominate yourself, tell us your story. We have a YouTube channel. That's the other thing that we have, is a YouTube channel where, if you're not on the cover, we still want to hear, and we still want to have interviews. And so we've ramped up. You'll see what we call our BTS, our behind the scenes interviews with the authors that we've talked to, subjects that we featured, interviews. Maybe they've been a subject matter expert on something. So when we first started talking about Kindle Vella, for example, we interviewed folks that had done serial writing. Alana Albertson shared generously how she's a six-figure author on serials, and what she thought was going to happen with Kindle Vella, which predictably came true. So she's very good, very smart. So you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see all of those interviews behind the scenes. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of behind the scenes, her ears must have been burning, but Heather commented, said, the IAM team, Indie Author Magazine team, is amazing to work with.
Hair flip right there. Hair flip. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. And SD Hutton reminds people, made friends with the like button. And so you do please like this video on Facebook and YouTube, just to help other people find out more about these great interviews with great folks like Chelle, who are bringing Indie Author Magazine and Indie Author perspective around the world. So you do have, this is a very global, right? Because when you talked about the people behind the Author Tech Summit and even getting involved in the magazine, you've got people, Canadian, and I know you've had Dow as well, fellow Canadian on there as well. Mark Dawson from the UK, right? So lots of stuff going on.
It's global. We've got writers in Kuwait. We've got writers in Malta. We've got writers in Cyprus and the UK and the Republic of Ireland, and all around the world. We use Slack. to keep in touch
Yep.
and post our dad jokes and our, very appropriate memes to stay connected. We bounce ideas off one another through Slack. We connect via email, and we try and keep everybody connected and utilizing. I mean, it is a little microcosm of coolness, I think, because having all those people in one space, it's kind of a, cool author soup. So they get to talk to people all around the world all the time and bounce ideas off. So
What I love is this is a magazine that you are producing in a very global fashion ahead of its time, because when you think about magazine offices in New York and LA and places like that, it's a big corporate expensive office in the middle of a major city and all these people running around from desk to desk to desk. But you have folks in every time zone practically working on this, and yet like really engaging in I call it the indie author ethic of just bringing in all the great talent, right? You're like, you don't have to have them in house
right.
necessarily. You can just work with other people in the community and
Yeah.
really put together something spectacular.
Yeah. And I think that's that sort of goes along with, Alice's, we call her the de facto head of HR. I call it the Go Ask Alice policy, but she created, again, building a business, we created the structure of it. So we have a style guide that everybody follows, and we have, an ethics policy, and we have a journalistic policy, we have a gift policy. Like, all of these structures are in place so that people can just come in and plug in and not have to worry about, all of the mishmash or chaos that sometimes can come with something like this on a global scale. We've got it all there, and they can just focus on doing, the best job they can with the words. And we created a tech framework for, delivering articles and editing. I mean, everything. And now 2 years in, I mean, it seems like we've been doing it 10 years now. It just seems like it's been going on for so long, because I feel like we finally hit our groove, right, with everything, and everything gets pushed to the buttons get pushed, and it gets to the right spot, and it just kind of hums along, right? And we also have a policy that, in case I get hit by a bus, right, we've replicated ourselves and cross-trained one another. And if I get stuck in Snowmageddon for an extended period of time, the magazine still gets produced. So
well, I want to talk a little bit about the logistics of publishing, because there's a friend of mine that I wanted to, there was an article I wanted them to see, and I was able to go to Amazon and drop ship an order directly to them from a retailer that I already had, they already have my credit card, etc. So gifting the magazine is a possibility through your website, but also through other retailers, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we, when we hit publish, right, we publish in different places. We publish the EPUB on Amazon, then we publish the print version on Amazon. Both of those things happen. Then we go to KDP and make sure that's done. Then we go to Draft to Digital. We publish wide on Draft to Digital for every channel except Amazon. Then we go to Lulu, and we use Lulu's dropship for our print versions that are direct from our website.
Yeah, I get them here in Canada. Yeah. I get them in the box from Lulu, and when I see the Lulu box, I go, "Ooh, Indie Author Magazine's here this month." I get excited about that.
Lulu has been great because we use WooCommerce. So logistically, we have everything set up on our website with subscriptions, right? And we use our website to manage the subscriptions, but we couldn't quite close that loop. So for the first 8 months, it was me going onto Amazon and sending gift copies to people one by one with addresses in my personal address book and sending copies. So when Lulu came along, I did the happy dance, literally up and down the hall, and got that connected. And it took me a day, right? And Laurel Descher was the one. Laurel's in Germany, and Laurel said, "Hey, have you seen this?" And I went, "No." And then that afternoon, I'm like, "We've got it. It's done. We have it. It's ready to go." And we can flip the switch. And that's kind of the beauty of being in indie, is that we can, pivot as quickly as we need to make that happen. So Lulu was very instrumental in making that happen. We've looked at others. We may incorporate more or, change, but it was a game changer. It freed me up about 12 hours a month of sitting there shipping, hundreds of print copies all around the world. It also brought our costs down. So that was also
it did, yeah. And you weren't even taking into account all the labor that you didn't,
No.
That didn't account for. Uh, I want to
Sometimes you don't
remind.
sweat equity, but you need to, right? As an indie
Yeah,
author, sweat equity is still equity, and you still need to count those
of
hours
course,
you're spending.
because
Yeah,
that's time taken away from other things that
it is.
and you only get 24 hours in a day, right?
Well, unless you're
The
Beyonce.
yeah, if you're using Draft to Digital for ebook distribution, except for direct to Amazon. That does that mean that you're using the library platforms to
We are.
distribute
Yeah.
Indie Author Magazine EPUB? So that means, dear listener and viewer, you can go to your local library because Draft Digital has access to this library of the world. You got Overdrive and Baker and Taylor and Hoopla and Biblioteca. Here in the US, you've got BorrowBox as well in the UK, Australia, New Zealand. Go ask for Indie Author Magazine at your favorite local library. And then, in terms of can they get access to the print version as well through libraries? Is it available through some sort of broader distribution?
It will be, right? It will be. And we've been working on that for a bit. We also were working on a distribution to get it into proper bookstores through a pure distribution channel. And then during the pandemic, a lot of those were frozen, right? They
Right.
changed some of their acceptance. And now, and for example, even Amazon has now, they've pulled back as of December 22. They're not distributing magazines anymore through their
Oh
distribution
my.
channels. So yeah, so we have been working on that for quite a while and would love it. I will say Hoopla is one of our main sources of revenue through
Really?
Draft Digital. Yes.
Really,
Yes.
for the ebook
Yes.
distribution, Hoopla. So because they go, lots of libraries use Hoopla,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear.
We've been
Good stuff.
thrilled. We've been really thrilled with, seeing, like, I always go, what? Tolino? That's cool. Like, we've been surprised at the channels. Uh, and when we started, we were thinking, all right, well, it doesn't cost us any more to
Right.
take all of these boxes to go wide. Like, why wouldn't we do that? It was just the smartest decision possible for us to go wide and have everything go through Draft to Digital the way that it does, because it wasn't any more labor, and it has brought definite benefits and definite readership globally in places that we're, it's kind of like a little lottery every month. We're like, spin the wheel. Oh, look, Greece. Cool. That's somebody bought in Greece. That's great. We're always surprised.
But I think the other thing that's cool is it's not just a subscription-based platform. You can go and order almost any backlist issue, right? If you
Yeah.
need it, if you wanted to request it, if you wanted to pay for it, if you wanted it in print, you wanted it in ebook. It's not like, okay, this is March 2023, and at the end of the month, it's not available anymore. We're moving on to the next one because of the way you embrace digital is I can go. So, for example, my great grandkids, I can go, hey, I was on the March 2023 issue. I'm gonna order you a copy. I don't have to take out the dusty box that Liz hid because I bought too many to distribute all over the house when it showed up. But
I'm a
yeah,
little disappointed you don't have wallpaper up with the cover now. I mean,
yet,
oh,
yet.
Liz.
But I love that accessibility because it means I can go and say, "Oh, you had a great article about the tech summit and about the tech stuff. Oh, I missed that." I can go
Yeah.
and get it. I can purchase a print, I can purchase a PDF, I can get the EPUB and then I can enjoy it. So it's not lost forever. So it almost
It's
becomes
And
like
also,
a
if you're a subscriber, you have access to the web-based version of it too, so that you can go and read it on the
yeah,
website. It looks like a blog post, honestly, but it's attached to the
yeah,
issue so that you can have it there. The other thing I should note is that we write everything with an eye for being evergreen, right? We'd like it to be current, but if things change, we can go back and edit those. We
yeah,
have gone back and edited things. We've gone back and updated, for example, our Kindle Vella information. We've gone back and updated, different articles with different resources. Sometimes PDFs change. Sometimes, like, for example, we had something that talked about Author Central and how to connect your blog to Amazon's Author Central page, and it's gone. So we went back and updated it to say, effective November, you can't do that anymore, but here's A plus content. And now you can do this, and you can, recommend other books and put your favorites in there. So we do try very hard to go back and refresh and reframe some of the information. And that's kind of the beauty of being digital. And again, being indie. we can go back and do that without, 16 layers of approval from a corporation somewhere that we never see. So
Awesome. Well, I just love I love the fact that you're creating another way for people to learn more about the power of being an indie author. I'm looking to see if I may be able to go and purchase a gift subscription for example, Waterloo Public Library, so that I know that my local library is now endowed with this great resource that they can make available for patrons and to discover and have access. And I encourage listeners who want to spread the love and spread the word about Indie Author Magazine, go and ask for it at the local library. If you have issues, maybe I'll just drop off a few of those extra issues of the Mark issue that the March issue, I should say. You should really have this because there's a local author featured here. But because I think one of the things, and the reason I'm suggesting this is one of the things that we do, and you said this earlier, I'm just kind of reiterating it, is the indie author community is so generous, and
yeah,
supporting one another is such an important attribute of what we can do, because we realize we're not in competition, right? We're just here to help people discover great things to read, and in this case, it's content that can help empower indie authors.
yeah. I think, coming from the retail space, it was new and kind of different to me to realize that we're not selling a single widget, right? A single product that you're competing for that single person to buy.
Yeah.
I used to say it was co-opetition, right? Because we're cooperating competitors.
Yeah.
And that seemed to fit a little bit, but it's even deeper than that. It really goes to the heart of reader satisfaction. So if I have this book that's here to read, the best way that I can satisfy my reader is to keep them engaged with other authors that are that write similarly, great stories similarly to what I write. And then, then the reader comes back to me. And it's that reciprocity and that generosity, I think, that makes our industry completely different than any other industry that's out there, right? It's just different and it hits different. And you read about it in the Facebook groups and in the forums, and when you go to conferences and everybody's just like, oh, I have this, you should do da 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 da, or I have this. Everybody is so generous to share that. And that's really why the magazine was born, was because we were overflowing with ideas about how to share stuff and we needed a place to put it. And so we started with indieauthortools.com as the place to put it. And then we wanted context. So it got bigger. And, we're just a reflection of our industry. I can honestly say we're just a reflection of the industry at large. And it's, I think it's really special. And I'm really, really grateful that it's taken off and it's as, popular as it is. And we've got 40,000 people roughly a month that we reach. And that's fantastic. And I'm excited about that. But I'm more excited about the person that says, I went through this and I published and I'm so excited. And that's that one person that writes to Indie Annie and says, based on what you said, I did this and this is my result. And they're holding a picture of the book. I'm like, oh God, that's great. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, I love
The
that.
greatest.
That
I
is
love that
that's
too.
the true power that you feel is when you know that you have empowered other people to feel the greatness of what can happen
Yeah.
when you're getting your words out there.
Well,
So
it was, it was again, the magic of, there were a lot of things that were wrong about the pandemic, but I can honestly say that, meeting the group of people that I did and having the group of friends that I did that supported me, and, we all supported one another throughout this globally. We were talking about what was happening in Germany and what was happening in the UK. And it just created this like trauma bond, I think. It's now, turned into something really amazing. And I'm really grateful that, we had the time to do that. And, if there's any redemption for the sadness and heartache that we all experienced, at least there were some good things that came out of it that I think will hopefully help one another and help the industry in general. So I try and look at it that way.
I love your optimism. I love your outlook on this, and I love, as you said, the way that Indie Author Magazine is an ideal, perfect reflection of our industry and all the great things that it can be. Chelle, thank you so much for Indie Author Magazine. Thank you so much for hanging out here with me today. This is a really fun time.
Thanks, Mark. I'm really grateful. You've been a great supporter from the beginning. We've been very lucky to have connected with you very early on. Krishan and I, got to sit and hang out with you very early on when everything was starting to be put together. And so we're really grateful that you've been a strong supporter from the beginning. We appreciate you too.
No, and I love having watched you guys build this up and into the greatness that it becomes and will continue to be. So thanks again, and thanks for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching this live. We're going to close out with a little clip from our dear friend Kevin Tumlinson about one of the features that's available at Draft to Digital. I want to remind you, go to indieauthormagazine.com, check out the podcast, subscribe to their podcast, subscribe to the magazine, buy gift issues of the March 2023 issue for your local library, for friends, for yourself. Any of the issues. There's so many great pieces of content there. You can like us, follow, subscribe over at youtube.com/draft2digital. Follow us on the Facebook page and be here every week on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern for these great D2D live chats. Chelle, thanks again.
Thanks, Mark.
And have a great afternoon, everyone.
Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created D2D Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now when you sign up at draft2digital.com/print.